Rhone, and then on to Europe. The Israel-based public relations firm Lone Star Communications was recently awarded the PR Campaign of the Year award for its branding of rap artist and musician Shyne. After spending 9 years in prison for his involvement in a highly publicized New York nightclub shooting with rap artist P. Diddy Combs and his girlfriend Jennifer Lopez, Shyne has legally changed his name to Moshe Levi Ben David, is a devout Hasidic Jew, and is now living here in Israel. Earlier this week, Shyne told me why he chose Lone Star to represent him.
It was a no-brainer. You know, I remember Mark Wahlberg, who's a friend of mine, you know, before he won nominated for Oscars, he told me, he said, listen, you know, I could get you the biggest agent, but it would be better for you to get someone who is committed to you and dedicated to your career and is going to go to the mountaintop for you than to get some big shot guy. It just so happens that Charley Levine is a big shot guy, and he's dedicated and committed to helping his clients, me being one of them.
Big high praise for you. Shyne, you've had an illustrious career already, and your life story is, as Charley mentioned, fascinating. When we talked last time, you didn't want to talk about your time in prison. How has your time in Israel shaped your music?
You know, I guess the time in Israel has really allowed me to just continue to change the paradigmic shift that I was already in the process of doing, just changing the conversation. I already talked about selling crack. I already talked about, you know, carrying guns and what I would do to somebody if they try to hurt me, etc., etc. I think we need, you know, for me personally, we all need growth. And my growth is just a different conversation. There's still people selling crack. I want to bring a solution to that. You know, I want to call on the politicians to do something about that. I want to call on the wealthy athletes and the wealthy, you know, businessmen to do more for their community. I want to call on those guys to say, you know, listen, man, I got to find another alternative to what I'm doing. So I'm just changing the conversation. You know, I'm having a conversation about solar energy, having a conversation about what's happening in Japan and Haiti and in Belize. And it's just a different conversation with the same audience, with a new audience, expanding the audience. And so Israel has not necessarily musically influenced me, but it influenced me as far as my soul and my spirit, which then influences my music. So I've been changing the conversation, and being here was just, you know, a continuation of changing the musical conversation.
Now, Charley, you've recently referred to Shyne as the hip-hop comeback kid. How have you managed to rebrand him so well? I mean, he doesn't take much, but how has your company managed to do such a good job?
Well, I would really love to be able to say that it was complicated and we're geniuses, but I can't. Shyne's story is so compelling. The changes and the transitions that he's gone through in his relatively young life, the decades that he still has to develop it further, that basically all we really did was communicate bits and pieces of his story to the top tier media in the world. I'm talking about New York Times, CNN, Associated Press, Time Magazine,
IBA
and
News.
So on. You stopped me, but I was going to get to IBA in just a few minutes. I wanted to say that all we really had to do was tell him that he was here and a little bit of the story, and they were more than open to hearing more.
Shyne, the media has, as Charley mentioned, been fascinated with your career and your spiritual journey here in Israel. What is it that we should know about you, and how do you want to be known? What are your projects that are sort of coming down the pike?
Yeah, well, you know, I think I'd like to put away the myth that I'm on a spiritual journey in Israel. You know, Israel is my home. You dig? This is where all Jews belong. You know, and that's all I've done. I just come home. You know, but that doesn't mean, you know, I wasn't in, you know, Cannes, or that doesn't mean I'm not going, you know, off to North America and Latin America and traveling the world to continue to carry this message of being an Israelite throughout the world, because that's what we were put here to do, to carry the message. And you know, we have a few albums coming out in the fall. I'm putting together a rock and roll band, you know, Shyne and the House of David. I got a few other rappers, Shyne and the Judah Hasid. So we got albums coming out all over the next year, and that's what I really want to be known as a guy who makes, you know, great music and uses his music to make people's lives better.
Congratulations again to Lone Star PR for their esteemed award.